It was supposed to be a quiet weekend away. Just us, no phones, no stress. Only snow, mountains, and silence. By the time we finally pulled up, dusk had already settled in. The cabin stood at the edge of a dense pine forest, surrounded by snow that swallowed sound. Mr. Harlow, the caretaker, was waiting on the porch. He looked like he'd been sitting there for a long time, hunched in a wooden armchair, thick coat buttoned to his throat. His face was leathery and pale, his gray hair slicked back. "Evening," he muttered. His voice had that flat, emotionless tone people get after too many winters alone. He didn't shake hands, just nodded toward the door. "Keys are inside. Heat's on. Pipes can be fussy, but you'll manage." Then he motioned for Mark to follow him inside to show how the heater worked. I lingered on the porch, breathing in the cold air and staring out at the tree line. As I was soaking in the view, I saw this young boy, maybe 10 years old, standing about 50 feet away in the snow. He wasn't moving, just standing there, staring directly at the cabin, at me. His hair was messy and too long, and even from that distance, I could tell his face looked pale. I gave a small wave. After a moment, he lifted one hand and waved back. I was thinking of walking towards him when Mr. Harlow's voice exploded behind me. "Hey, you! Get lost!" I flinched. The boy turned and ran, his feet kicking up snow as he disappeared between the trees. I spun around, startled. Harlow's eyes followed the boy's path into the woods, his jaw tightening. "That kid's a thief. Comes around here to try and steal food from the basement storage. Don't let him near this place. You hear me?" His tone was sharp, almost threatening. Before I could ask anything else, he stomped down the steps and drove away in his truck. That night, the cabin felt emptier without his presence outside. The wind moaned through the cracks in the wood. Mark made soup while I unpacked. We tried to relax, but I couldn't shake the image of that boy. Thin jacket, bare hands, staring through the snow. It was around 9 p.m. when I looked out the window again, and he was back. His arms were wrapped around himself, and his lips looked blue.
"Mark, he's back,"
I whispered. Mark came over and squinted through the glass. "Jesus, he must be freezing. Maybe we can give him some food and tell him to go home." Before we could decide, a faint, high-pitched sobbing took over the silence. Strangely, it sounded around the house, moving, circling, echoing through the walls, like a child crying softly, sometimes close, sometimes distant. We both froze. Then, as suddenly as it started, the crying stopped. Mark took the flashlight and ventured out to look for answers. After 5 minutes, I heard Mark calling out my name loudly. I bolted for the basement as his voice came from there. When I reached it, Mark was already half inside, and huddled near a stack of crates was that boy. He looked terrified. Dirt streaked his face, and his clothes were soaked from snow. In his trembling hands, he held a half-eaten loaf of bread from one of the pantry boxes. Mark lowered his voice. Hey, it's okay. We're not mad. Are you hungry?" The boy didn't answer. His eyes darted to the door, like he was expecting someone to come bursting in.
"It's all right,"
I said softly, stepping closer. His lip quivered. Tears filled his eyes. Then, in a trembling voice, he whispered, "Are you going to tell Mr. Harlow I came here?" Before we could reply, he crawled forward and grabbed Mark's leg, sobbing. "Please don't tell him," he begged, his voice cracking. "Please, if you tell, he'll never let my sister out." I froze.
Your sister?"
The boy nodded violently. "He's got her locked in a room down here. She's been there for days. He said she stole from him." Mark and I exchanged a horrified glance. "Show us," Mark said. The boy led us down a narrow hallway at the back of the basement, behind shelves and broken boxes. There was a small space in the corner. I could smell dampness, rot, and urine right away. Inside, we found this little girl, maybe 7 years old, curled on the floor in a filthy blanket. Her skin was pale and bruised, lips cracked, eyes half open. She looked too weak to even lift her head.
Oh my god!
I gasped, kneeling beside her. Her skin was ice cold.
She hasn't eaten.
The boy whispered, crying.
He brings food sometimes, but he didn't come for 2 days.
Mark dialed 911 with shaking hands. His voice broke as he tried to explain what we'd found. We wrapped the girl in coats and blankets and stayed by her until headlights finally cut through the trees. Mr. Harlow was arrested that night at his house down the valley. According to the reports, the boy and girl lived in a hut in the woods. Their ailing mother died days back, and for food they often came to Harlow. Instead of helping these poor kids, Harlow made them do all the chores of the cabin for free. He sometimes gave them food and other times made them starve. When one night they couldn't tolerate the hunger anymore, the little girl snuck in to get some bread when Harlow locked her in that basement. It puts me in a rage to think a human can be this cruel to children. We went to visit the kids in the hospital. The little girl smiled so big the moment she saw me. The boy hugged my husband and started crying. It's been only a year since we got married and we had no plans to have kids soon. But seeing these two, we could barely turn our back at them. Tomorrow, we are filing for adoption. I'm not letting this kid beg for food or love for the rest of their lives. And for people like Harlow, I hope he rots in jail. I've been doing nature photography for 8 years, and I've seen my fair share of weird shit in the woods, ranging from bears that nearly got my head, coyotes that chased me for miles, and once a mountain lion that was a centimeter away from making me his lunch. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what I had escaped that day. It was pretty cold that day. I'd hiked 3 miles into the state forest before sunrise, trying to catch the light hitting the snow just right. My editor wanted pristine winter wilderness shots for some outdoors magazine spread, so here I was, voluntarily freezing my ass off. I found a good spot overlooking the small clearing and set up my tripod. The sun was starting to come, washing everything in pink and gold. I was lining up my shot when I saw movement at the edge of the clearing. At first, I thought it was some animal, but when I squinted a bit, I realized it was a person. A woman, to be specific. She was crouched over something in the snow, draped in a tattered animal hide that reeked of blood and rot. Her hair hung down in these long, matted tangles with frost clinging to it, and she was barefoot. I was about to call out and ask if she needed help, but the words stuck in my throat when I saw she was crouched over a deer. The deer was dead. The poor thing's throat was torn wide, staining the snow beneath him crimson. The woman was bent over it, with her face buried in the wound, and she made these wet, sucking noises, like she was trying to drink it dry. My stomach dropped the moment she lifted her head, revealing a face smeared with blood and meat that ran down her neck. Her skin was pale as a corpse, and where her eyes should have been, there were just these glistening red hollow sockets, like something had eaten them out. I watched in horror as she reached into her dress and pulled out these little carved bones strung together on a long braid that looked like it had been ripped straight from a woman's head. She laid them out in the snow around the deer in a particular pattern, wobbling around in a way that made my skin crawl. Once done, she started chanting in a deep, guttural, rasping sound that was nowhere near human. The words sounded foreign, like ancient hymns. She dipped her fingers in the blood and started drawing symbols in the snow. Spirals and lines and shapes hurt to look at. Her chanting got louder by the minute, until it bounced through the trees. I should have run, gotten the hell out the second I saw her, but I realized I didn't want to get away from her. The more she chanted, the stronger the pull became, until resisting became impossible. I took a step forward, and a twig snapped under my foot. Her head immediately turned to me. Even from 30 feet away, her eyes locked onto mine, and her mouth stretched into a grin far too wide for her face. For a heartbeat, we just stared. Then,
She let out a guttural, animalistic scream that shattered whatever trance I'd been under. In 2 seconds, she was on all fours and crawling towards me like a jungle cat. I blinked, grabbed my camera, and bolted, crashing through the trees as fast as I could. Behind me, I could hear her scrambling and the sickening scrape of hands and feet on snow. Every time I risked a glance back, she was closer, moving through the snow faster than any human should be able to move. Branches whipped my face as I tore through the trees. Still, I ran blindly. Suddenly, I tripped over a hidden root and went rolling through the snow. The camera flew out of my palms, but it was the last thing on my mind. She was leaping from branch to branch now, swinging like some insane animal, landing with a sickening thud right where I had been seconds before. I kept rolling down the slope. Snow filled my mouth and eyes. My lungs burned from the cold. My head spun so bad I thought I'd never breathe again. Then, somehow, the momentum threw me onto the main trail, right as 2 hikers appeared. They were a couple, bundled in coats, walking sticks in hand. When they saw me, their eyes widened in concern.
Oh my god! Are you okay?
The woman asked, helping me to my feet. I spun around and pointed at the woods behind me.
There was... She was...
Blood was running down my face from where the branches had cut me, and I was shaking like a dried leaf.
Oh, we should call someone.
The woman said, pulling out her phone. I looked back at the woods again, and immediately saw a pale silhouette standing motionless between 2 pine trees, maybe 50 yards in. She was watching me, with that grin still stretched across her blood-stained face. Then, she turned and disappeared into the shadows. I told the hikers that I'm fine. I didn't want to make it a big deal because I was unsure of my mind. I left my camera, my tripod, my gear bag, basically everything. I walked straight to my car and drove home. I thought that was the end of it, but 2 days ago I saw a strange case in the news. The discovery of a college student's body occurred in the same area where I met the hikers down the slope. The cop had said he was on a solo camping trip. He had many bruises and disturbing biting marks on his legs and arms. It seemed like some wild animal killing, but strangely, the teeth marks on his body came out human in the autopsy report. The police suggested that a deranged person has taken shelter in those woods. Maybe that person even has taste for human meat, because authorities are clueless that what kind of a person bites off the tongue of a 19-year-old. I thought of calling the cops and sharing what I saw that day, but I'm afraid they won't believe me and will start suspecting me. What should I do? I'm a graphic designer living in Brooklyn now, but I grew up upstate near the Catskills. My dad still lives there, and I try to visit him at least once a month. The night it happened, I'd been driving back from one of those visits when my engine died on a back road I'd taken to avoid highway traffic. To make things worse, a blizzard was coming down so hard I could barely see 10 feet ahead of me. I sat there for 20 minutes, trying to get my phone's signal back as snow piled up on the windshield and the cold seeped in. The heat was gone, and my hands were going numb when I spotted this faint yellow light through the trees. I grabbed my phone for a flashlight and stepped into the storm. The wind nearly knocked me over, but I stumbled toward the light, praying it was someone who could help. Up close, I saw this old 3-story building with the huge signboard, Mercy Hills Care Facility. I knocked a little too loud on the front door. After what felt like forever, it creaked open, and a woman with dark hair peered out.
Hi, I'm Lana. My car broke down. Can I use your phone?
She looked me over slowly, then opened the door wider.
Of course. Come in. I'm Sophia, the night supervisor.
The inside was warm, but smelled like a hospital. The lights kept flickering, and somewhere down the hall, a TV hissed with static.
Phone lines are down, but you can stay until morning. Let me get you some tea.
Sophia said, leading me to a small office. I rubbed my hands together, trying to get feeling back, while Sophia disappeared and returned with tea in a chipped mug.
Drink. You must be freezing.
The tea tasted too sweet with a bitter aftertaste, but I drank it anyway.
I need to check on the residents. Don't wander around.
Her footsteps faded down the hall, and the building went quiet for a full 10 minutes before a soft thump echoed from somewhere above, followed by high-pitched, breathy giggles. I didn't want to move, but sitting still felt worse, so I stood and pushed the office door open. Outside, the hallway was narrow and dim. The walls were damp, lined with numbered doors and barred windows. The care facility felt less like a home and more like a prison. But what made my stomach twist were the leather restraints hanging from metal hooks on the ceiling. The giggling started again and felt closer this time. I shrieked as an old woman jogged past in a bathrobe, barefoot. Her thin white hair hung limp as she whispered to me.
Are you the new nurse?
Her eyes were wide and glassy.
No, I'm just waiting for the storm.
Oh, the last one said that too.
Her lips curled up.
She tried to run. Sophia doesn't like that.
My stomach dropped.
What? What do you mean?
But the woman's smile just widened, and she turned around and started dancing in that empty hallway. I could sense something very weird about that place. I decided to leave. I started walking faster, looking for another exit. I could hear the soft crying, whispers, and the slow drag of fingernails on wood from behind the closed doors. One door was cracked open. I looked inside and wished I hadn't. The bed was covered in dark stains. A tray nearby had restraints, leather straps, and electroshock equipment along with other laboratory instruments.
Curious little thing, aren't you?
Sophia's voice came from directly behind me.
I should go. The storm's
Getting worse. And you drank the tea.
She smiled.
You'll be too drowsy to leave soon.
I spun around and tried to get away, but she grabbed my arm with impossible strength.
You are one of us now.
One by one, doors opened up, and the residents stepped out. They moved in eerie silence, with eyes that didn't blink. My head was spinning from whatever she'd slipped into that tea. They were getting closer. I twisted my head and bit down on her hand, hard. She screamed and loosened just enough. I stumbled forward, searching for a way out. I was being herded. Still, I ran. The hallway dead-ended at a door marked treatment room. Sophia screamed from behind me.
You'll be an excellent subject, Lana.
The residents were coming at me like they were in a trance, eyes all blank, but hands stretched forward to grab me. It reminded me of The Walking Dead. That's when I saw the narrow side window, half hidden by a filing cabinet. Surprisingly, it was barless. I grabbed a fire extinguisher mounted on the wall and swung. The glass exploded.
Get her!
Sophia screamed. I threw myself, feeling glass tear into my skin. I hit the snow hard and forced myself up. I ran into the white void of the blizzard. The freezing air shocked some clarity back into my drugged system. I crashed through snowdrifts, tumbling over. Behind me, I could hear their giggles echoing. I remember headlights and the crunch of tires on ice before everything went black. I was found on the snowy sidewalk by the cops. I woke up at the hospital and told them about Mercy Hills and Sophia, but hearing my words, the cops looked at each other with confusion, like they were having a difficult time believing me. I was eventually told that the whole place and its residents had burned to the ground a year back. It was an electrical fire, and amongst the ashes was Dr. Sophia Hale, a neuroscientist who lost her license 20 years ago after conducting unauthorized brain mapping on her patients. She was also a patient there, along with others who thought of her as the night supervisor. It's difficult to believe I saw ghosts of dead people, but I can't brush off the memory of that night. The weird thing was that the cops told me the window that I broke to escape from never existed. All the windows of the building are barred, and the only way out is the main road from which I entered. So, what exactly happened with me that night?